Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Krashy, and today I wanted to do something very different and try a new kind of video and just see how it goes, really. So as you can tell by the title, I have been VOD reviewing and watching a lot of TTV games, mostly watching them ladder from a recent stream, and just trying to extrapolate as much data and as much kind of like strategy as possible. So I actually watched them for about 7 games, and I took notes on the first 6 games, and I kind of want to show y'all, or really even tell you, just what I found just about now. I'll probably have maybe some gameplays of them in the background that you can watch, that you're probably looking at right now, and we'll talk about it. So first and foremost, let me go on ahead and set the stage. I did mostly watch the perspective of top lane and jungle. I originally set out to just kind of learn a little bit, and this is mostly what I do, kind of behind the scenes, to stay up to date with the meta, to improve myself. I pay attention to my role, to the thing that matters most to me, and was watching a lot of like Lutano and Toon for the early games. So let's go ahead and dive into some of my notes. I'll probably read you my first 3 games worth of notes, and then I will talk about what I just noticed as trends overall. So I was watching Toon for the first 3 games, and I noticed that in game 1 he was playing Cinderace. Now Cinderace jungle, obviously very, very strong, heads to the top, goes in a jungle, does his first rotation, heads to the top for 850 Bs, and they actually both die at Bs. Now, in a lot of the games, I noticed that early deaths in top lane around the time of Bs didn't actually seem to impact them very much. They were able to get farm, trade out Bs pretty evenly a lot. Sometimes they would stomp it and get all the farm, and sometimes they would die, and sometimes they would not die. But in this game, they actually both die. Now, at 8 minutes, he gets his Ludicolo kill. I just was timing that out. My notes get a little bit less comprehensive later on. During his second rotation, his second clear, Toon goes into the mid jungle and actually invades the enemy side. So just based on the communications in this game 1, he was talking about where the enemy jungler was and like what the timing was, and he actually invades their side, and he actually dies in that period of time. So he actually dies around 720. So he's not in the lane for 720. He dies on their side. TTV plays aggressive on the beach for Dreadnought and forces Dread, and they win it. So one thing I've noticed about TTV, and this is in my notes for every single game, is that they are incredibly aggressive. They are very, very good at getting either early leads, and even if they're not in a crazy huge early lead, they will still find some form of opportunity to have momentum, whether it's them grouping faster than the enemy teams, and they will play incredibly aggressive. So on the beach where Dreadnought spawns, they get together really, really quickly, they push the enemy side, they eliminate 1 or 2 of them, and then they will get Dreadnought for free in this game. They actually use the Cinderace ult to dive the tower, which they will get low, and at this point, this is a consistent thing that I've seen, and like I said, I'll kind of recap a little bit more in a bit, but they almost never break bottom tower. They never break bottom tower. I don't even say almost never. I never see them break bottom tower. Toon will then re-enter jungle, and they do what is the most standard thing that they do, where they leave 2 players bot. It's usually Zugrug on Wiggly, Goof on Pikachu in bottom lane. Eldegoss will roam center to go top lane. Lutano will go back top lane, and Toon will re-enter jungle. They play very farm focused. They're not really interested in Rotom too much. They're not overly interested in fighting during this period of time. They are keeping 2 players in the bot lane to farm the lane. They want to be there for 550 Bs. They want to be there for all the Audino spawns. They are there to farm. Like I said, Toon goes back in the jungle. He's there to farm. Lutano goes back to top lane. He's there to farm. Indy is there to support. In a lot of their games, in this game 1 specifically, they will lose Rotom. They will either concede it or lose Rotom, and they will allow the top goal to be broken, or sometimes, if it goes well, they'll take the Rotom. But in most of the games, in this game specifically, they actually lose the Rotom. So they kill the Rotom, or they let it crash top. I don't remember which one happened here. And then the second Dread is coming up a little after the 4-minute mark or so, or a little bit before the 4-minute mark, around that 4 to 5 minute mark. is when the next dread will come up, and they position aggressively in the bottom lane. They force a fight, they use ultimates, and they have the lead. They play like they have the lead. This is a consistent note that I wrote down. When they have the lead, they play like they have the lead. They played incredibly aggressive, and they killed the second dread. Now, same thing, Toon is going to instantly re-enter the jungle for another rotation, and the enemy actually forces the second Rotom, and this is where I wrote TTV allows it and deals with it. And this was incredibly important. And again, this is just my notes from game number 1. They will allow the enemy team to get Rotom. They're not really worried about it. They just want to farm. They just want to find opportunities. And yeah, so, and then I wrote fundamental end game. They win the easy fight and they close it out. So basically, from that point on, they were just farming. They group up. They fundamentally win the fight. They're much stronger. They're much more confident. They're grouping, and their decision making and comms and fights are very clean. So that's game number 1, more or less. Like I said, sprinkled in with some thoughts about everything that I was noticing. So let me read my notes verbatim, because like I said, my notes get a little bit less comprehensive and easier to pay attention to as the game goes on. So game number 2, Toon was playing Charizard with full heal, 850 Bs. Lutano dies again in this game. Indy rotates to mid jungle a bit. I wrote this down because this is when I started noticing that Indy Bear actually on Eldegoss will rotate into mid quite a bit. He actually roams a lot. 720 Bs goes cleanly. Toon goes to mid jungle. Dread spawns and they instantly start hitting Dread, and Lutano comes down to smite it using Power Up Punch, so they instantly will rip Dread sometimes, or they will play incredibly aggressive. It's either one is more or less the kind of like the norm for them. They will play incredibly aggressive early. They'll play aggressive on the beach. They'll dive the tower early, or they'll insta-rip, secure the Dread, and then they'll play aggressive. Some nature of that, like that. Something like that happens. They dive and don't break bottom. Toon goes back into rotation. There's 2 bot, 2 top. They concede Rotom. And then I said second Dread is now coming up. Toon and Lutano are AFK, meaning like they're not around, but Zug actually gets the steal. So in this scenario, Toon was actually farming and Lutano was like on his way down, I believe. And even though TTV was at a disadvantage in numbers, they still get the Dread, which I'm not going to lie, in that situation, just watching it, I feel like it was kind of lucky. They probably were just a little bit behind on, or not paying attention to timing. So they lose the second and last Rotom based on the timing. Again, that's something that they often allow to happen, and they are ready for. They defend it and are ready for sap. So the goal was probably dead. They defend the Rotom, like they defeat it in the lane. They deal with it is often how I say it. And yeah, at this point they are looking to fake pull zap. And so they get it down to like 25%, 30% or so. The enemy team feels forced to step in. It's a pretty common strategy, and they will force a fight. They insta pull / kill, and they close out the game. So yeah, so they fake pull zap, they instantly start the fight, or the zap flip, however they look for it, but they're very strong at this point, and they will close out the game. All right, I'm gonna read game 3, and then I'm gonna talk about my kind of like roundup thoughts, which I'm basically kind of sprinkling throughout this. Game 3, they play Charizard full heal on Toon. Again, this is the perspective that I was watching. 850 Bs happens. It's very clean. Lutano already had 5, so the influence from top lane, like how well Lutano was doing, definitely will show here. Whenever it was very clean, it's usually because Lutano was winning lane and had 5 already. Indy likes to roam. I put in my notes. There was actually one of these games that I watched where Indy rotated all the way to top lane to actually like help fight for a little bit. It was just like kind of a judgment call, but Indy loves to roam quite a bit. 720 Bs go clean with a pick first, meaning they got a kill right before the 720 Bs, so that definitely helps. They instantly go bot off top lane. So often what I've seen out of them is that they will fight for 720 Bs and they will instantly go bot. I think maybe one of the like 7 or 8 games I watched did they ever go bottom before 720 Bs, and it was a game that they played Dragonite jungle and they were looking to rip Dreadnought very fast. This is where I noted, like in bold text, I said they play very aggressive when they're bot lane. This is when I started feeling like I was seeing the pattern. When they're bot lane, when they're grouped, they are incredibly aggressive. I think that the only condition where they wouldn't do this, and I didn't even ever see this, is if they were getting like hard gapped or hard to like beat top lane, but it essentially just never happens. Lutano is always either even or ahead, and in that scenario, they have the timing down, they have the communication down, the synergy down, where when they get get to bot lane, they play incredibly aggressive. They kill Dreadnought and Toon goes straight back into jungle. There's 2 bot, 2 top. Again, they're farm focused. They concede Rotom and let it break the top lane, and this is where I wrote, they do not care about top. And I think that this is where, again, I started to see the patterns in game 3, where I noticed that they just simply don't care about Rotom. They really don't care about top goal. If they get more farm out of top goal, great. If the Rotom crashes in, whatever, cool. They don't really care. And then I wrote again, when TTV has the lead, they play like it. I said Indy lives in mid for vision. Indy, again, loves to roam on Eldegoss. Very safe character to do so. You have Cotton Guard, you have Leaf Tornado, you have the ability to move around. And I basically said they're too strong to lose a fight. They close out the game. So, all right, so that's my kind of like quick notes review of the first 3 games that I spectated. I did notes for 6 games, but I want to go ahead and talk about what I saw. They have a very specific outline. They play very farm focused. This is mostly what I think is, I would call this mostly like the North American meta that I see a lot, because a lot of teams tend to emulate TTV and really try to understand the way that they play. And essentially what we're seeing here, or what I feel like I'm seeing here, is just a very experience-focused play style. They're not playing for goals, they're playing for farm. They leave the bottom lane up, they farm. They have 2 people in bot lane, so that way they can farm. They leave Zugrug and Pikachu or Goof on Pikachu, so that way they can farm. They send Lutano and Indy through mid to top, so that way they can farm. They have Toon back in the jungle, so that way they can farm. If they lose the top goal, that's fine. It gives them more farm. They want to always be playing aggressive and getting as many kills as they can whenever they are in a position to be strong and to do so. And then that leads to them getting dreads. Sometimes they're incredibly aggressive beforehand. Sometimes they're incredibly aggressive on the Dreadnought, and then post Dreadnought, like flip or just fight that they take on their own terms, they will play incredibly aggressive. And in endgame fights, they are often, more often than not, so far ahead that they are also incredibly aggressive. And that is the style of play that I've noticed. They tend to not overinvest themselves on Rotom ever. I think that that's a really important thing that I've noticed, is that they just play very aggressive when they have the lead, but they don't really care about top lane at all. So yeah, this has been an interesting experience for me. Like I said, this is how I kind of try to keep up with the meta and pay attention and just VOD review and learn and focus. They're incredibly good at fighting. It's really hard to break this down into anything specific. They are very cool. They're very calm. They're collected. Their communication together is very concise and clean. They will constantly call out the timers of like, or not even just timers, but like they'll call out, oh, you know, I have no flash, meaning eject button. I have no this, I have no that. They're very good at tracking through you know, like context clues or whatever. I don't know. They're very good at just like keeping up with the context of the fight, what the enemies have, and making decisions based off of that. In one game specifically, they said, you know, oh, Zard probably doesn't have ult here, you know, we saw him use it, blah, 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 like, we should play really aggressive because of that, you know, just little things like that that you would want to have. And if they do force ults in endgame, they're very comfortable kiting a fight backwards, like just walking backwards, dealing with them and doing damage as they walk backwards, and then re-aggressing and pushing forward. Their team fights are incredibly clean. So that's kind of what I observed. Those are kind of the notes that I took. Hopefully I feel like you could take something away from this with whatever footage I have going on in the background, and at very least just enjoy the process of paying attention to what I think is currently the best team in the world. So friends, drop a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this. I'm going to work on the presentation for something like this a little bit more, because I'm not really sure how to present this just yet, but I'll get better over time. As always, be sure to be kind to one another, tell someone that you love them, and I'll see you on the next video.